You don't know enough about science. That was the exact sentence my boyfriend of 3 years used to discard me like a piece of trash. He thought he was the brilliant PhD candidate, and I was just the size 8 distraction who couldn't keep up with his intellect. He didn't realize that while he was busy studying animals, I was busy studying him. And by the time I was finished, he didn't just lose his girlfriend. He lost his funding, his reputation, and the very career he thought I wasn't smart enough to understand. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who thought they were the smartest person in the room, this story is for you. We're diving into a decades-long saga of a revenge so precise, it's practically a laboratory experiment. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because today, class is in session, and the lesson is, never mess with someone who knows where your skeletons are buried. The 90s were a different world. No cell phones, no instant GPS, just paper maps and the feeling that if you met someone special, it had to be destiny. That's how I felt when I met Jake. I was in my early 20s, still in college, and Jake was 23, a freshly minted grad student heading across the country for a prestigious PhD program in animal sciences. By what felt like a cosmic coincidence, I was already planning to move to that same region with some friends. We'd be living just 90 minutes apart. Jake was brilliant, or so he let everyone believe. He was tall, confident, and had that troubled academic vibe that is catnip to a young woman. He had 3 siblings who were genuinely wonderful people, and I bonded with them instantly. His advisor's wife, Mary, became a mentor to me. She worked in university administration, and since I spent my weekends at Jake's rental house, she and I would often grab lunch. Jake lived in a house with 2 other grad students, George and another guy. It was a typical student setup, messy, cramped, and smelling faintly of sawdust and animal feed. You see, Jake wasn't just studying animals, he was breeding them. His house was filled with tanks and enclosures. Small exotic mammals, reptiles, it was his passion and I supported it. I'd sit there for hours while he droned on about genetics and husbandry. But then, the mask started to slip. 2 years into the relationship, we were laying in bed one night. It was 1 a.m. We had just been intimate. And out of nowhere, Jake turns to me and says, "I'm concerned you've been gaining weight. It's making it harder for me to be attracted to you." The air left the room. I wasn't a large girl. I was a US size 6 or 8. I had maybe gained 10 pounds since we met. But it wasn't about the weight, it was the cold, clinical way he said it. No concern for my happiness or health. Just, "You are becoming less of an asset to me." I sat up, pulling the sheets around me. My heart was hammering, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of a tearful breakdown. "Well," I said, my voice steady, "maybe you should make sure there's better food for me to eat than crackers and cheese when I drive 2 hours to see you on weekends. What's your solution, Jake?"
He just stared at me.
"I guess you should try to lose it?" "Nah," I replied. "I'm not doing that." "So, what are you going to do?" He had no answer. He was a coward. I put my clothes on, went to sleep, and drove home the next morning. I should have left then, but when you're young, you try to fix things that are already shattered. 3 months later, the hammer dropped. Jake called me and broke up with me over the phone. His reason? "You don't know enough about science." I actually laughed. "Excuse me? I feel like I can't have a real conversation with you," he sighed, acting like he was carrying the weight of the world. "I have to use common names for animals instead of scientific ones. We're just on different levels intellectually." It was the most pretentious, fabricated lie I had ever heard. I demanded the truth, but he hung up. A month later, he came to my apartment to return some of my things. I didn't let him leave until he came clean. Finally, he cracked. He had been sleeping with Meg, one of his 19-year-old undergraduate students. He was 26. He was her TA. He was her teacher. In an instant, everything clicked. The comments about my weight? Meg was a size 18. Jake clearly liked bigger gals. He had been negging me, trying to destroy my self-esteem so I would break up with him, making him the victim. He was a cheater and a coward who used science as a shield for his infidelity. My roommate almost threw him off our second-floor balcony. After he scurried away, I sat on the floor and laughed until I cried. He thought I was the dumb one. I sent an email to his roommates, George and the others. I thanked them for being good friends and told them we were over. The reply I got back changed everything. George told me they knew. They had seen Meg at the house. They had told Jake that if he didn't tell me, they would. That's why he gave me the science excuse. He was running out of time. George, who was a total sweetheart, told me, "Come up this weekend. Jake will be out. I'll help you get the rest of your stuff, and then we're going out to the bars." On me. That weekend, the revenge began. While George helped me pack, I looked around the house with fresh eyes. I wasn't a PhD student, but I had been listening to Jake's scientific rants for 3 years. I knew his secrets. I knew he had an endangered species in that house, a rescue he refused to register because he didn't want the government in his business. I knew he had an animal that was strictly illegal to own in our state, kept in a tank right by the window. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my camera and took photos. Photos of the endangered animal. Photos of the illegal tank. Photos of the cramped, overcrowded breeding conditions. Then George and I went out. I put on the shortest dress I owned. We got a little tipsy, and we stumbled back to the house at midnight, right past Jake and Meg on the sofa. George, being a total legend, paraded past them in his boxers a few times while we made sure to let some very loud, very fake moans echo from his bedroom. The next morning, Jake looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. "You don't have to act like a whore," he spat. I just smiled, slowly ate a donut, and looked at Meg. "Have fun with my leftovers," I said. But the hookup with George was just the appetizer. The main course was about to be served. The Monday after I got home, I didn't cry. I went to the pharmacy and got my film developed. Then I made 3 phone calls. Call 1, the State Office of Fish and Wildlife. I reported every illegal animal, the lack of permits, and the endangered species. I told them exactly which window to look through to see the prohibited species.
Call 2, Mary.
Jake's advisor's wife. I told her everything. Not just the cheating, but the fact that he was sleeping with a current student in his department. Mary was a woman of high integrity. As I sat on the phone, I heard her tell her husband, Jake's boss, everything. Call 3, the EPA. This was the killing blow. Jake had just been awarded a massive federal grant for his research. I asked a very simple question. What is the protocol for a federal grant recipient who is under investigation for the illegal possession of endangered species? The dominoes fell faster than I could have imagined. A week later, George called me, sounding breathless. "The state is here," he whispered. "They're taking everything." The wildlife officers had shown up with a warrant. Meg was there, and in her panicked attempt to protect Jake, she told the officers that all the animals belonged to him. She effectively cleared the roommates and pinned every felony on her boyfriend. Jake lost his EPA grant immediately. He was ordered to pay back nearly $30,000 in funds. He was fined another $15,000 by the state. His teaching assistantship?
Gone.
His scholarship? Revoked. The university didn't expel him, but they made it clear he was persona non grata. He had to beg his father to pay for a final year just so he could limp away with a master's degree instead of a PhD. His dreams of being a high-level researcher were dead. You can't get federal funding when you have a record for poaching and grant fraud. I moved on. I got my own master's degree. And the irony? My specialty became science communication. My entire career is dedicated to helping brilliant scientists explain their work to laypeople. I stayed in touch with Jake's sisters. They hated what he did. They even told their parents the truth about how he and Meg started. For 20 years, Jake was a ghost in my life, a failure who went back to small-time animal breeding while I traveled the world as a guest lecturer. Until 3 weeks ago, I was invited to speak at a major university. I stood on a stage in front of 250 students, delivering a keynote lecture on, you guessed it, the importance of clear communication in the sciences. After the lecture, a man approached me. He looked older, tired, gray. "Hey, Opie, long time no see." It was Jake. I didn't flinch. I didn't show anger. I just gave him a blank, professional look. "I'm sorry, have we met at a previous workshop?" He looked stunned. "It's me, Jake." I, I can't place you, I said, tilting my head. Then I let out a fake gasp.
Oh, Jake.
From 20 years ago. I guess I just blocked you out. Well, lovely to see you. I turned my back on him before he could even try to hug me. I left him standing there, a face in the crowd, while I was the guest of honor. That night, the department faculty took me to dinner. One of them mentioned his name. So, you know Jake? He's actually here for a job interview. We're thinking of hiring him for a permanent teaching position. I couldn't help it. I scoffed. Is there a problem? The department chair asked. I took a sip of my wine. I'm just surprised. Usually, universities are hesitant to hire people who were fired from their previous TA positions for sleeping with 19-year-old students, especially when it results in a loss of federal EPA funding. The table went silent. We'll have to look into that, the chair said. A few days later, I got a call from my old friend Mary. She's retired now, but she still has friends in the department. Someone called for a background check on Jake, she told me, chuckling. They pulled his old file. The firing, the conduct complaints, even the old arrest record his father tried to get expunged. It was all right there.
Jake didn't get the job.
20 years later, he thought he could finally outrun his past. He thought he was the only one who understood science. But he forgot the most basic law of the universe. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. I'm currently sitting in my office, wearing my size 10 pants, and I've never felt lighter. If someone tells you that you aren't enough, that you're too dumb, or too heavy or not scientific enough, just remember, they aren't describing you. They're describing their own fear. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for a coward is give them exactly what they deserve. The truth. Jake learned the hard way that you can't build a career on a foundation of lies. Have you ever had a checkmate moment where the past finally caught up with a toxic person? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed this 20-year slow burn justice. I'll see you in the next one.